topic for the panel discussion is on paid versus non-paid advertising, and when is the right time to start doing that. And basically, it's not the same for everybody. There's no, like anything with marketing, it's not one size fits all type of thing. We oftentimes have clients or prospective clients who come in and tell us their story and their goals, and we'll say, you know what, SEO is not for you. You're not ready for it. And they're like, wait a minute, that's what you guys sell, right? And we're like, yeah, that's exactly what we sell, and we're telling you, you're not ready for it. It's not marketing objective number 1. It's definitely not marketing objective number 2, 3, or 4. It's probably marketing objective number 5. And so when you have your brand and your story and you have actually some revenue, you have some sales, you have some traction, you have a community of people that are talking about you, and you have all this other stuff going on, and you want to own the organic search results for your industry, that's a really good time to start with SEO. I mean, it would be best if you could do all things at all times and started 20 years ago. That's fantastic. But if that's not the case, they don't have revenue, they don't have marketing dollars to do everything at all times. Paid ads is, you get to bring, instant results and revenues if it's done correctly. If it's not done correctly, it never will. But SEO is really your long-term strategy to own that space. Every good company you've ever heard of or seen online, they all do SEO, and they do it consistently. So if somebody's not committed and willing to do SEO from this day forward and really jump in 2 feet and really want to do it, we tell people, hey, we're not going to take your money. We don't think it's going to work. After 6 months, you're going to be like, hey, this isn't working, I'm out, because SEO just takes time. You're trying to replace search engine results with yours versus a competitor's, which they've been working on this for some amount of time, and you just don't replace people overnight. So let's discuss. Everybody feel free to jump in and tell me your thoughts. Was I wrong on all that stuff? I saw some people nodding. I saw other people fall asleep. So tell me
Matt,
your thoughts.
This is Scott here from Cenergistic, and let me jump in and support exactly what you said. And by the way, I wish I'd known you a couple of years ago before I lost about 90 grand on an SEO experience or a paid experience. I use 2 words. I actually just spoke with Lisa and Pete about 2 words that I would really consider important before you invest in an SEO or a paid strategy. And that is accountability with whoever you selected to be your partner in doing this, whether you build this internally to your company or whether you select an agency. Accountability that goes both ways, that you're going to treat each other almost like fellow employees versus an agency relationship. Yep. And the second thing is endurance. If you're going to invest in an SEO strategy, I would say pack a lunch, because it's going to be 18 months before you get complete results, right? Probably a year, but maybe as much as 18 months. Don't expect something in 4 to 6 months. You might see some leading indicators and some good movement, but you got to be in this for the long haul, in my judgment. And where I've seen it succeed at previous companies, we had the endurance to keep going. So those are my additions to what you already said.
I would agree with you, Scott.
I'm going to take that little snippet. I'm going to send it to all my prospective clients and say, hey, listen, this is an industry guy. He understands this stuff. Now, I've told you.
Pack a lunch.
You said you understood what I said, but in 6 months, when you're like, hey, man, this isn't working, I'm going to be like, hey, remember that guy, Scott Cassidy, who told you this is going to take some time? And you agreed that it was going to take time. And that's why we signed a 12-month agreement, because we still get business owners. Exactly. We still get business owners.
That is my all-time favorite.
I don't know.
Man.
I don't know if this is working. We're like, dude, we're 90 days in. I told you it's not going to work in 90 days. It just doesn't work that fast. No. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate that.
I would agree with Scott. I'd also like to second what you said, Matt, from the standpoint of really being ready to do it. I think certainly in some of the companies I've been at, they've wanted that's kind of like, let's do SEO, where they don't really necessarily have their targeted audiences ready, their messaging ready, a digital platform on which they can perform. Yep. And so I think you're right that it's SEO is like 5 lays down, and you have to have some momentum before it's going to work. You talked about revenue, but it's not only revenue, it could be momentum in a particular environment. And then I think Scott is so right. Setting the expectation that it's a journey to get to being number 1 on your search engine. It doesn't happen because you say, oh, we're going to do SEO. So I think both of those are really key. And I think one of the hardest things that I've found is getting people to understand that you can't say, it's here we are, it's done. It's
Never
hard
over.
to make people internalize that.
Yeah. And we tell people, hey, once you make it to number one and your traffic's good, and you think, oh,
Don't
we're there,
stop.
we're good. We can stop now. It's like, well, your competitors didn't stop, and they're trying to displace you. So
I would second
we're trying
that.
to just keep getting revenue out of you. But the facts of the matter are, there's always somebody coming up behind you. Even if you feel like you're killing it, that does not stay forever. You have to continue to put in.
I
It's
would
like going to the
second that.
gym. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
I was in great shape when I was 18, so I stopped going to the gym, and then
it's so true. You know, I had one of my CEOs say to me, "Oh, we've made number one. We don't have to invest in marketing anymore." And you know, it's like, whoa.
Whoa, I can't believe you said that out loud. That's the quiet part you're not supposed to say out loud.
Exactly right. Exactly
Great.
right.
I'll tell you, this is Lisa Farris. Whether it was when I was chief marketing officer at realtor.com, where we managed literally millions of keywords, to even at the Recording Academy and Grammys, my sense is that you can't not afford to do SEO. Paid search is a different thing that you really do need to be ready to take in those leads. But it starts with your website. If you're relying on your digital experience, you need to build the capabilities into your website and make sure that it's built correctly, because after the fact SEO is always more
Correct.
challenging.
Yeah,
Correct. No doubt about it.
But you cannot afford not to pay attention to SEO. And by the way, I don't know if being number one is the goal. I mean, being on the first page is the
being
goal.
relevant. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you know, at least I'll just tell you, in real estate, if you start a real estate company tomorrow and you think you're going to, knock out Zillow and realtor.com from the number one spots, you have to adjust your expectations. But it's incredibly important, and having a good team, because you need someone to focus on this literally every day, whether that's someone internal or external. But I think it's fundamental. You cannot be effective. Paid search, I think you need to be prepared. You need to be, whether it's, PPC or SEM, you need to be ready to take in those leads. How are you doing it? How are you turning that into, that's where your ROI really makes a greater difference. But I truly think that you can't afford not to do unpaid search.
very good. That's fantastic. Anyone else have comments, or they were about?
Yeah, I was gonna chime in.
Go ahead,
I'm a big believer in data. So, I think all of us, if I said how many go into track the data daily, I mean, the first thing I start out with every morning is I look at all my data, and then I take the data and I figure out, all right, what do we need to do to ebb and flow with the changes, right? And so I agree with everything that's been said. It's, SEO is it's a day-to-day relationship with your website. And if you're not doing it, then you're going to fall behind. And to Lisa's point, at some point you got to hire somebody to do it, and it may seem a waste, but it's not. If someone searches for desktop as a service, just as an example for my company, I want to be on that first page. And to do that, I got to make sure my content is aligned. And to do that, I got to make sure I have relevant videos on YouTube. And I got to, content is key, right? And so data helps you kind of drive that decision. And then on the paid side, I'm a skeptic on paid social. I use it sparingly, and there's other tactics I've seen, like, for example, conversation ads on LinkedIn are very high conversion rates. But if you do just pay per click, I look at the conversion rates and, cost per lead, et cetera, just to say, is it worth it? But there's a time and a place for paid, and Matt, hopefully you would agree. But, I look at all the data aspects and figure out, all right, how can I do better? The other big thing that I find a lot of marketers don't understand is UTMs, like creating your links so that when you put a link out there, it's trackable. You know where it's coming from. And a lot of the platforms, like social platforms, sharing platform, they allow you to do that UTM, so you can put a tracker on it and know, hey, this came from, Tony's profile in LinkedIn.
Mhm.
She clicked on it, things like that. And I'm surprised at the number of marketers that don't understand a simple thing called a UTM,
It's true.
So.
And Pete, what's interesting there is it's such a great tool. Every tool that I'm aware of, HubSpot included, allows you to create UTMs very
Mhm.
easily.
That's true.
But what's really important to not do is reuse that for multiple channels, so you have no idea what just happened, right? And so there's a discipline that's involved, and again, that takes a person on your team or an agency to make sure that you're watching that and actually leveraging the technology to do what it's intended to do and tell you where that's coming from. So just make sure that you've not just invested in technology, but also people to manage the technology.
That's
I'd
great.
agree.
One other thing I want to bring up is the way that Google does their paid ads. It makes it really, really easy to track your ROI. And so when you present that to a CEO and he sees he's making $4 for every one that he's spending, he's like, okay, we're going deep into that. And then they try to show him what's happening from an SEO perspective, and Google does not make it easy to track ROI. It's impossible. It's an abstract for a lot of people. They look at it and go, what are we actually getting out of this? And it doesn't give you any reports. And so the very analytical CEO, the CFO, the people that are telling you how you can spend your money, you're looking at it and going, let's just do all paid ads because we're making money. But the SEO, I can't see how that's tracking. So maybe it doesn't work.
Really good.
And the CMO is going, are you kidding me? But they're the ones that pull the purse strings. So they're the ones that get to say. And so they come back to an agency at times and say, hey, SEO apparently is not a part of our strategy. And you're like, okay, I get it. You talk to the analytical guy, the right brain dude that just can't see it. But anyway, that's part of our
That's a challenge.
plight, I guess. Our challenge in SEO is proving value. But we do have monthly deliverables. Here's exactly how we spent your budget. Here's exactly how your ranking, your increases on keywords. Try to show them as much data as we possibly can so that they don't think that we're just stealing their money and they go, what's actually happening? I don't know. Because a lot of SEO agencies just say, just trust us, it's working. And they don't really show you anything. That's definitely not the way that we operate.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
So Matt, do you bring it down to the page though? Like, so for example, if I'm a SaaS company or I have a form that says book your demo here, do you focus on, hey, Scott went to my demo page, he filled out the form, so that's a conversion, and then he scheduled the meeting, boom, and then he actually did the demo.
Yeah, no, you can show that from top of funnel type stuff, but I'm just saying, like, how many keywords are you ranking for? How is traffic actually coming into your website until they click on a link and say, I want more additional information? How are the people actually getting there? You can show them analytics from like Ahrefs and Moz and SEMrush and all these things that show their improvements on keyword rankings, but still without you being able to show the dollars to some people. They're just like, it's not working because I can't show you where the money's actually coming from. So,
I want to jump in here because I'm facilitating all kinds of brain trust meetings with all kinds of different groups. Last week it was community managers, and a couple months ago I asked the CMO group, what is the future of marketing? And everyone came back and they actually said it's community, which is so fascinating. I mean, Matt, you mentioned SEMrush, right? So what's interesting is I'm really familiar with the community industry. And when you talk about content creation by users, by customers, by developers is incredible. User-generated content.
Yep.
And so I can see how the future, if the future of marketing is community, the community ROI falls under that SEO kind of category of it's a long-term game. And it's really hard to figure out attribution, and they're going through that right now. A lot of really fascinating things are happening, but I'm seeing community managers starting to report to the CMO. I don't know if any of you guys are experiencing this right now. And what I'm seeing happening is that the community managers are being asked to start to generate leads from the community, and the CM community is going, wait a second. This is about conversations. This is about relationships. This isn't about necessarily one hit, get leads, and then move on. This is about building that over time, similar to SEO. So I think SEO is in a really good spot. And the brands that get SEO and get community, when you combine both of those things, it's going to be amazing to see that for those.
Yeah, that's
brands.
powerful for sure.
Well, one other thing to your point, though, it is a long-term game. but it's a long-term game in the same way that building your brand is a long-term game. I really, I don't know. I would love to meet a CEO that says, don't worry about SEO, only spend paid dollars. Because even if it doesn't happen overnight, neither does the evolution of your brand. And if you are not ensuring that your website is optimized properly, you have not done your job. You're as not only as a marketer, but as a chief marketing, as a CEO.
Well, you're leaving money on the table too, right? Every little problem with the website, whether that's site speed or a 404 error or a server error, or it doesn't have the secure certificates, or the schema's not right, there's no alt text, videos aren't tagged correctly. It's all of it adds up to lost revenue.
And it shouldn't be marketing's sole responsibility. That is absolutely whether it's a product team or a dev team or a tech team who you're working with, that is where you are joined together to be accountable for those things, where it's not just marketing trying to scream at someone to update that process.
I love that, Lisa. Thank you very much. Everybody, really appreciate you staying after. It's a long meeting. Hopefully y'all have lunch plans, go get some food, and you have some time before your next meeting, but really appreciate you being here today. Paul, thank you again for facilitating, and hopefully we'll see you at the upcoming event. We'll do one probably that third Thursdays. Thursdays seem the best for most people anyway, in November. Wow, that's probably Thanksgiving, right? We don't want to do it on Thanksgiving. That's no good.
On Thanksgiving is not a good idea.
Definitely not on
very low.
The week before
Low attendance.
We'll send out details, but I appreciate you all being here today and hope to see you again soon. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks so much.
Yep. Bye-bye.